The Nigerian equities market has maintained 3 consecutive days of positive performance, pulling the year-to-date return of the all-share index to 2.4%. Now, this followed sell-offs in the market after the re-emergence of Muhammadu Buhari as the winner of Nigeria's 2019 presidential elections. To discuss this new trend and general sentiments in the Nigerian equities market, I'm joined by Adeola Gbemisola, investment analyst at Afriinvest Securities Limited. Adeola, welcome to the show.
Good morning, Lydia.
Morning. So how has the equities market reacted post-2019 presidential elections?
So following the elections, what we saw in the market is that immediately there were sell-offs by investors in the market. We feel that the sell-offs in the market was investors just being scared, and most of those sell-offs were driven by local investors in the market. They were just wondering to see what will happen. But interestingly, given the fact that foreign investors are the ones that really determine the pace of activities in the market, and for them, they think that following the elections, that the emergence of Buhari will mean that currency remains stable. If you look at the policy direction of the CBN, so currency remains stable, and they feel that policies that I've seen so far in the economy remain stable. And you must understand that the stocks that are in the market that are seen by investors coming in from other markets has been cheap. So because of this, what they decided to do is that they decided to buy more, and then other local investors in the market saw it as a positive sentiment, as a positive indicator. So they've also come back to the market to buy. So what they've done is that they've bought on Friday. So you saw that interest back in the market on Friday. It was up around 60 basis points. And then on Monday and then Tuesday, yesterday and the day before yesterday, what we saw in the market, it was up 1.0% apiece. So on Monday and Tuesday. So we think that that kind of performance will remain for a while. And it's also been aided by the fact that some companies are releasing their earnings results. And then we think that those two sentiments was what is driving the performance in the market post Muhammadu Buhari as winner of the presidential elections.
Okay, but what sectors are driving investor interest in the equities market?
So if you look at it in terms of sectors, what sectors are investors taking most interest? So historically, when foreign investors come into the market, we try to focus on two main sectors of the market. The first sector is the banking sector. And the reason for the banking sector is that stocks within the banking sector are highly liquid. When you look at the tier one stocks, where you talk about stocks like Guarantee, UBA, ETI, and also FBNH and some others. So what you're seeing is that there's an anticipation that some of these companies will release good results. So that has determined the pace of buying activity that we've seen, for example, in Zenith and then in Guarantee. To put a bit of perspective to that, following the announcement of the election, we saw that investors sold off on Zenith, for example. Investors sold off on Zenith in the market. So, but after we saw some bit of interest again, Zenith has begun to experience some bit of upticks. So, and that sector you want to see investor take interest as well is in the industrial goods index, and that is in Danksem. Because of the fact that the way Aliko Dangote has decided to run his companies, when you talk about Dangote Industries Limited, the holding company for his business, all of his companies that are within the holding companies are very, very open. Let me use that word in terms of disclosing what's happening within the company. So I'll read the better word for it is corporate governance. So corporate governance is on a high, and as an investor coming into the Nigerian market, one of the things that you'll be looking at in positioning yourself is in stocks that you know that the companies are well run. The agency cost between managers and owners of the business is very minimal. And again, if you think about Dangote Cement, it's a company that will continue to perform excellently well. Its revenues were almost touching was around 900 billion naira. Wow. And then for some people like to joke that for the full year 2018, the government itself was even paying Dangote. So what we saw was that some tax credits boosted the bottom line. Bottom line were up around 91.1% year on year. So for them, for a company like Danksem, when you think about it in terms of dividend yield, dividend yields were almost touching 9%. So investors that bought the stock prior to the release of the results will be able to earn around 9% on their dividend on their stock. So So basically, those two sectors, the industrial goods sector and then the banking sector.
Okay, well, you mentioned earlier that performance will be maintained for a while. So do you see the market performing the same for the rest of the week? And also, will the upcoming gubernatorial elections, how will that impact investor sentiment in the equities market?
So for the rest of the week, and if you tie it to the fact that the elections are coming up on Saturday, for the elections, you might not see so much of investor reaction to the results. You might want to think about Lagos and maybe Abuja. Abuja, unfortunately, doesn't have elections. What you have is the FCT minister appointed by the president. So for Lagos, the elections will hold, but it won't have so much of an impact on. It won't have so much of an impact. Well, despite the fact that the state is a commercial capital of the nation, and even given the fact that as well the NSE is the main body of NSE is in Lagos as well. But we don't see that having a sort of impact. But for the rest of the week, what you might want to see in terms of performance, you think that performance will remain this way. Although if you compare the Nigerian equities market to the fixed income market, what you've seen most of the time in the fixed income market is that rates in the market are quite high, and which means that the bonds and instruments, the debt instruments in the market were priced at very low levels. They're priced very low. So we've seen FPI inflows as well to that sector, with investors buying into that sector. But again, it doesn't negate the fact that the equities market is cheap as well compared to peers in SSA, that's Sub-Saharan Africa. So we might say that for the rest of the week, activities in the markets will still remain around this
relatively the same.
It will remain relatively the same. Investors will keep on buying, but again, we might just advise cautious optimism in the sense that we might see some foreign investors selling down to take profits.
Well, given some of the recent publications of earning results by some companies that you've even mentioned, what is your view on performance and expectations for other companies that are releasing results?
So for other companies that we track, for two main companies that have released their results so far, or three. The first one is Zenith, which we were finding that the result was all right, although we saw that interest income for the bank was a little bit lower than we expected. But for Dangote Cement, we didn't expect that tax credits was going to hit as much as 89 billion. But we think that the company we had expected the companies to have posted a positive performance. Yesterday, Nestle released their results yesterday. As expected, the results were awesome. Although the dividend yield for the company was still low, and this is given the fact that the price of the stock is around 8,500 naira per stock, so the dividend yield was not so attractive. But one thing that we always advise investors for a stock like Nestle is a stock that you always see growth in terms of its price. So if you're an investor that is seeking a stock that you want to earn capital gains on, the fact that you want to own the stock and you want to be able to sell later on to get some bit of capital gain, Nestle is a good stock for that kind of play in the market. So going forward, we're expecting some bit of positive results from companies like Interbrew. Within the consumer goods space, we are still expecting some other companies within that space to release their results. We might want to mention Flour Mill, we might want to mention Honey Flour, we might want to mention Unilever and some number of companies within that space. So we are still thinking that they're going to also post positive results. And based on their results, based on their result, we think that they're going to post good performance. But on the flip side, we're not so much expecting a good result from WAPCO, that's Lafarge. Okay, why? Reason for Lafarge is the company is challenged by finance costs on its books. So the finance costs came on its books after it acquired Unisem. So it had to get some shareholder loans, and it's recently been using some shareholder loans to augment its performance. But we think that there's still a need for a bit of capital restructuring for the company to ensure that you take out most of the finance costs, because if you try to strip out the finance costs, you realize that they're performing well at their own level. But then those costs might be weighing the company's performance down. So overall, we're expecting good performances from most companies within our coverage. Adeola, thanks so much for joining me on the show today. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I've been speaking to Adeola Gbemisola from Afrinvest Securities Limited.